on, that'd be great.
Looks happy.
There you go.
Just don't do crafts in the middle of it.
It's tempting every day.
He's weaving a hat right now.
Very good. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone out to Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, May 6, 2020. We have not only some of the Planning Commission present here, we do have two of the Planning Commission members that are actually via GoToMeeting as well, and so they're online. We're going to start with item 2.1, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be offered by Heather.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Heather. We do have a full Planning Commission today. Do we have any conflicts of interest with any of the items on the agenda today? All right, thank you. Seeing none. Then we'll look for a motion for approval of minutes for the March 18th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting for March 18th, 2021.
Thank you, Lauren. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Don't even say.
Aye.
Aye.
I'll second it.
And a second
there's the second.
as well by Adam. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the administrative items with item 3.1, which is a request for conditional use amendment approval for elevation changes to the Parkside condominium buildings. And actually, before we start that, just two items. If you are at home, if you could please mute your GoToMeeting, just so we don't hear any background. And then also, so we did have the Rose Crest General Plan Amendment was actually noticed. There were mailings and it was posted. It is going to be removed from the agenda by request of the applicant. And so we'll go back to item 3.1 and look at city staff.
So, Commissioner Burbett and
Yes.
Planning Commissioners, item 3.1 has been withdrawn.
Okay.
That was a last-minute change to our published agenda. In fact, I think your packet actually had removed it. So I apologize for the miscommunication or error on our part. But yeah, 3.1 does not need to be heard on our agenda, at least not that particular item.
All right.
So the Skyhaven Estates is the next item on your.
Okay, then we'll move on to item 3.2, which is a request for preliminary plot amendment, approval of the Skyhaven Estate subdivision. And we'll start with city staff, and this is on for a public hearing.
Good evening. So tonight, applicant Jacob Satterfield has submitted an application for an amendment for the Skyhaven Estates. It's pretty straightforward. The location is approximately 14186 South Skyhaven Circle. Its zoning is A.25, meaning agricultural quarter-acre lot minimum. Here is the updated design. Now this is part, of course, since it's an amendment, it's part of an existing subdivision. Here's a map of that. So you see everything to the southwest of the proposed 7300 West. That's Matty Heights. So this is an old
Hold on one second. It sounds like there's some tech issue. Adam and Edric, can you guys hear okay?
Yeah, we can hear okay. I was just gonna chat and say I can hear fine.
Okay, so I guess Jake can't hear very well. It sounds like it's from well, he's not gonna be able to hear me. So maybe we can message him and let him know.
I'm typing it in right now.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
All right, Nick.
The access code you entered is invalid. You entered 1. Please re-enter your access code followed by the pound.
We can hear you, Jake.
My voice changed.
No, that's Jake. It's not you, Adam. I'm pretty sure it's coming from him.
To enable audio.
All right. We'll let you
Okay.
get back to it. Sorry about that.
No problem. Okay, so like I said, everything west of the proposed 7300 West is the existing Matty Heights. Now, this is an old picture. Actually, this is from the application from 2017. And I will change the slide. The slide doesn't seem to be changing.
Check to make sure it's on, the switch is in the on position.
Yeah.
Be able to advance it, Mitch.
You could go, yeah, this is perfect.
Can caller 3 and caller 5 mute themselves right now? One of you, we can hear typing in the background.
Jake says he can hear, by the way.
Okay, great.
So here is a rendition of the original plat. Now, everything to the east of proposed 7300 West has not yet been built out, and this is what's changing. As you can see, and I'll go into detail here, but as you can see, there's a cul-de-sac here that abuts the proposed road. I may need you to advance it again. Perfect. Okay, so if you want to go to the next slide. Okay, so this is what it looks like now with the proposed change. As you can see, with the completion or the proposed completion of 7300 West, they now no longer need to do the cul-de-sac, and they can actually connect it right to 7300 West. If you look at the lots, they're relatively, they remain the same. There's still 9 lots, making it, when you add it to the Matty Heights lots, they're still keeping to their agreement of no more than 21 lots, albeit 21 exactly. It worked. Okay. So that's how it would look, just on the map there, plotted out. And here's the new plat. So again, if we look at the old and the new, the lots, the shape of them changed a little bit, but they still remain true to the required size. Again, there's no additional lots, no less. and plus the benefit of it, of the connectivity. So essentially, the staff recommendations remain essentially the same from the original agreement. However, we did update number 12 as it is no longer, let's see, was it, hold on, let me pull up the agreement here. So number 12 originally read, in the agreement from May 22nd, 2017, it said, the cul-de-sac phase, including lots 13 through 21, will not be able to be constructed until the adjacent connecting public road to the east has been dedicated and constructed. The applicant will need to work with engineering on the details of the improvements on the new road. Since that road is now in works to be complete, we've updated that. So number 12 on the staff recommendations have changed, and that's per our engineering department. This was in the report. Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
I had one on your recommendations. Has there been an update on item 10 with the detention?
Item 10?
Yeah.
Take a look real quick.
Is that something you would like engineering maybe to address or respond to?
Correct.
It appears to be the same.
So it's still the same?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for staff?
So is this development going to be constructing 7300 West all the way down to the south to tie in? I thought I saw that in one of the parts of the packet, right?
Great question. To my understanding, it will be constructing 7300 West up to the entrance into the new Skyhaven subdivision, the proposed subdivision, and I believe up. If you can see that line up there
I can see where
yeah, I believe it's up to that point.
because I thought I saw some recommendations in there
Yeah,
about trails and whatnot.
Again, I think your engineering department can probably better answer your question on that.
Yeah.
As far as, it's essentially, obviously, we need to coordinate an off-site improvement, right? In order to facilitate this revised subdivision plan. So I'm sure they'd be happy to answer your questions on
Yeah.
that.
Somebody from engineering.
Does
Yeah, I just have a
engineer want
question.
to
Yeah.
address this?
Yeah, is engineering here?
Okay.
It looked like
I was
there
just
some
curious if
requirements,
there was
right?
a second cul-de-sac because they
That's
didn't want
previously,
to.
there were two cul-de-sacs.
Yeah, because they
Between
weren't
the two,
going to be
yeah.
required to improve 73rd.
On the other side.
Right.
Yeah, curious.
I like the layout. I like what's going
Yeah,
on.
I like
Yeah,
the
want to make
no.
sure
connectivity
that
better.
Oh, it is
there
better.
wasn't any of the recommendations I thought for the connection to 73, and I thought that, I saw that on one of the figures in the packet.
I have another question too. I know there's the property that's, let's see, northwest of this, where they've constructed a home. I'm curious if they collected a fee in lieu of to bring the road over the hill.
You're talking me of the adjacent, that's west, or the subdivision
It's
west
in
of this project?
northwest. Yeah, because there's a home that they're almost done building.
Where on this map do you see?
Yeah.
You mean
It would be where it curves at the very top. So if you're looking at the, up just like northwest of the green outlined piece where it curves.
Brody, you're talking to the house that's almost like straight up from where the right where the road starts to curve, or are you talking way more north?
No, just where it's almost in the northwest corner where the road curves behind the subdivision that's already there and then goes along the west side of this property. I'm just curious if like when that piece of it's going to be constructed.
We can ask engineering after on that item. We'll have them, maybe after the meeting, ask them about that.
Well, maybe we can,
Engineering, do you guys have an answer to as a question?
Thank you. So as you can see, and the question is with regards to condition number 10, is that correct?
that was one question.
Yeah.
Right?
That was
And
one,
then
yeah.
another one.
So I apologize coming in late on this, just making sure I'm going to answer the question correctly. So I'll start with that one particularly. So that's a carryover from the prior condition of approval that we did not revisit specifically. Now, I'm curious, is that pertaining to that question only? Did you guys have more questions just to that?
Well, there was a question about 7,300 as well.
Okay, sorry, will you repeat
My
that for us?
question was just what the progress has been made on question 10 since then. And it sounds like it's still in review.
Sorry, will you speak up a little? I couldn't hear.
Is it so it's still in review?
The progress made on number 10.
Yeah, because
Number 10 is still in
pond.
review.
It says they may lose 2 lots, and we're curious if that's been addressed.
Yeah, that's correct to my understanding, and I apologize, I'm getting caught a little flat-footed on this. If maybe I can step back and speak with the applicant and the engineer real quick, and I can circle back with you if that's all right.
Okay.
So maybe just hold a pause for just a minute.
And then the other question that we had is just curious, northwest of this, where there's a home already built. I don't know if we have a fee in lieu of, like to connect the road where it ends heading south to this subdivision.
Northwest to the north or to the south? Sorry, Brody.
Northwest, like where it curves and goes
It's
behind
not,
the
it's
current
not tied to
subdivision.
this property.
No,
You're talking about
it's
something not
not.
tied to this property. We can talk about that after this meeting.
All right.
And so,
Let me get back with you if that's
Yeah.
okay. I apologize. Just a minute.
So a little more info on the storm drain. They were actually, we talked to them about connecting into, I wish I had a laser pointer. There's an existing pond on the east side of, I believe, the Alder Rose subdivision, which is the one directly to the east of what you see in green there. That's where they were planning on using their detention.
okay.
Don't leave. Don't leave.
What's
Question on 7,300 then. Are they making the connection all the way down to?
Go to Rosecrest?
To Rosecrest,
Yes,
Rose
so
Canyon?
on 7,300, they'll be constructing it partial width down to the road to the south to connect
Okay.
there. And that was the thing that I don't think anybody contemplated, that road being constructed. You know, and I think the original reason for that requirement on the road being completed to the east was so they weren't accessing that on that small private lane there right now.
Right, because there was some dedication things that were required. So I just read,
Yeah, so, and we, speaking of dedication, we are getting the dedication we need for 7,300. We have most of it. We're just getting the little bit on the west side of this subdivision that we still need for.
and they're providing dedication also on Rose Canyon, even though it's not adjacent to this.
Oh, the city has all that land
Okay.
already. So
All
it's,
right.
the only dedication we need is what they own as part of
So those were
7,300.
carryover then from
Yeah.
2017. All right, very good.
While you're right there, don't leave. Lot 5 and the driveway for Lot 5. Is there a potential concern related to the amount of the height of 7,300 West being above Lot 5 and a blind corner coming off for that home? Have you as engineering looked at that?
Well, I would see, and maybe this will answer the question, I would see Lot 5 accessing onto what they're labeling as Sky Haven Drive there.
Agreed, but with the compounded angle between the two, that's gonna, are you forcing, and this is a good shot, are you forcing the driveway to be closer to the curved C3 on Lot 5?
Oh, yes, I would agree with that. It would need to be on the east side of that lot.
I'm just saying that lot is going to, I mean, there's already a lot of fill to get down off that hill.
I mean, Lot 4 needs the same thing to have their drive located.
Lot 4 and Lot 5, I think, have concerns that if they put their access close to 7,300, it will cause problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, I think they need to be as far east as possible. And they've got some big cuts to put in there too to make it all work. They're gonna definitely be moving some dirt.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Thank you, guys. Is the applicant here? I think they might be online. Where's the applicant here?
Yep, we're here.
All right, great. Would you like to share additional information on the project and maybe address some of what we'd been discussing?
Yeah, I don't know what else I could add. If there was questions specifically for me or concerns, that might be better, but we've tried to refine this layout to make more sense and
Sure.
have better circulation, and I think we've successfully done that. I can understand the concern on any access or driveway access off of lot 4 and 5 needing to come off of Skyhaven Drive and not off 73. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think, and if you don't mind stating your name, I don't think you stated your name at the beginning, just for public record.
Yeah, Jacob Satterfield.
Okay. I think more so, and Adam, you can address this with him. I think we're talking about on Skyhaven, making sure that it's closer, the driveways would be closer to lot 6 and lot 3 for 4 and 5, just for safety coming off of 7,300. Yeah, as far east as possible. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem at all.
Okay, great. Do you have anything else, Adam? Or was that really it? We might need to add that as an item, though.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. If you don't have anything else to share from the applicant, then this is on for a public hearing. And I'm just going to read the public comment and policy procedures. The purpose of public comment is to allow citizens to address items on the agenda. Citizens requesting to address the commission will be asked to complete a written comment form and present it to Wendy Thorpe, Deputy Recorder, and those are located in the back. In general, the chair will allow an individual 3 minutes to address the commission. A spokesperson recognized as representing a group in attendance may be allowed up to 5 minutes. This policy also applies to all public hearings. And so I will open the public hearing at this time. And then Wendy, did you say we had one electronic? Okay. I'll let Wendy read that first, and then anyone else who may have public comments can come up later.
Okay, this email was received from Tammy Alder. I would like to state that I am fine with this developer building another road to access his property. Would like developer to relinquish and sign away any rights he holds now to Skyhaven Lane and Skyhaven Circle roads at this time, and or in the future of any new developed roads. His property or himself or his future subdivision owners will not have legal or physical access to either existing road or future road besides the 7300 West Road. Abolish any further access he holds at this time for the existing road, Skyhaven Lane and Skyhaven Circle, to his development. Remove any legal access to any future new road that will be built for access to remaining landowners who utilize the existing road at this time. Also, this developer bought this parcel of land, eyes opened, knowing he could not utilize existing road, Skyhaven Lane or Skyhaven Circle, for his 9 lots. Also would like to submit email if any concerns arise, stating the following from Harriman City, that by accessing this developer privilege to build a new road going to 7300 West from his property, that the 9 lots would and could only be accessed that way, and no changes or obstruction or utilization or decrease in number of lots from Alder Row subdivision would occur by granting this builder the addendum or subdivision to be built. No utilizing any part of existing Sky Haven or Sky Haven Lane or any parcel of your land or existing roads will not be approached on for his development. Harriman sent me this acknowledgement. Also, only .24 minimum lot size to be built, and it has to keep in zoning regulations for density as Harriman City installed on my development. Thank you, Tammy Alder. And that is the only comment we received.
Thank you, Wendy. If there's anyone in the audience, you can come up to the podium if you have public comment.
My name is Glade Ely, and I'm probably impacted by 7300 West more than anyone else. But I do have neighbors here with me that have the same problem because the road all of a sudden is just right over the fence to the east of us. My home is the second home at the top. You have the one that's kind of like a pie shape. That house was just completed and they just moved in. And none of us really had any idea we were going to have a road right over the fence. So now we have a road and we don't object, or I don't object to the new homes going in. Single family homes are great. And it sounds to me, from what I've heard so far, that the reason for 7300 West being created from 7100 West is because you have to have that access because Sky Haven Road or lane or whatever it is, not lane, road, that comes and curves and goes up. Is that a private lane?
At this time, you can make comments and then we'll address them afterwards.
Okay. As far as having a road that goes up over the top and comes very close to my east fence, I do have a nice deck that we just put in there. It's covered and so forth, and it's a prime lot, and so do my neighbors. But now we're going to have a road that people are going to be putting on the power to go up a steep hill. So that's going to be noisy. And then this road I don't understand because we have two new roads. I used to live up Rose Canyon until January 4th. And I know I've been there for 16 years. We had 4 major fires. You do need a way to get out of the canyon and so forth, but you've got 2 new roads, 2 new ways to get out of the canyon now. So you're putting another one in that's going to come into the road that goes over the top just to the west. And those, so that if you did have an emergency, it's not going to do any good to be going up 7300 West because those 2 roads conjoin and you're going to have the same traffic jam that you have down on 6400 West when there is an emergency. So I'm not understanding the road going in the first place, but the other question I have is, if it does go in, is that going to be all asphalted before construction starts on homes? And the reason I ask that is all of us have our decks on that side of the street on Maddie Heights facing that very place where all the dust and dirt is going to be. So I don't know. And then the other question I have is, when will the construction start? Because that could make a difference as to when we move all of our patio furniture into our garage and forget it for the summer. So I hope I haven't sounded too negative, but I do have some real concerns about this house that I bought because of the great view.
Well, we appreciate your comments.
And I'm sure the others do too.
Thank you for your comments. And if you have a chance, just in the back left, there's a comment form. If you'll fill that out and get that to Wendy, that'd be great. If there's no other comments, I'll close the public hearing at this time, and then the applicant actually has a couple minutes to share any additional information if they'd like to at this time, maybe address some of the questions.
I don't have a whole lot more to share, except for I know that an early part of us trying to design for this, there was certainly a head scratcher for me as well. The purpose of the extension of 73 and how it impacted the residents there. And the fact that it somewhat essentially wise back into, at least my understanding, it could have a different route, but the fact that it connects back in it seemed a little bit like more of a parallel road with a road that already existed that provided that through access in case of emergency. So we certainly were scratching our heads on that one as well. Doesn't mean that it doesn't serve a good purpose, but we agree with that last comment there, and how we were needing to meet that right of way that was in place.
Thank you. Do you want to address the other questions that he put forth and in regards to the road behind it? Is that a private lane?
The road behind, can you help me understand which road?
Lane.
Yeah, I guess there's a Skyhaven lane or something like that. I believe that's a private lane. I just want to confirm, and I can ask staff as well. So that's a private lane. So that's not for public access. So you did need to have some public access. Okay. And then just, I guess, based off of obviously tonight, they sort of asked a rough estimate of a timetable of when construction would begin, and if the road would be actually paved before construction began or after.
I really couldn't say, on that. We really haven't gone that far ahead to be able to plan anything. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure we had addressed what was asked if possible.
I was going to say the road has to be paved though before they start. So at least that'll be done before they start building the lots.
All right. Thank you so much to the applicant. We'll now look at the Planning Commission for additional comments and questions.
So I have one that I was just looking through when we started looking at the 1 and 2 question on the storm drain. I started looking around, and I'm a little concerned that lot 6 and lot 5 aren't wide enough. I know our rule says 85 feet. And we say that in our motion, it's already in our recommendations, but the curve on C4 is only 60 feet long. And so that on lot 6, right where it says C4, 60 plus 70 plus 16 is only 76. And the reason why I think that's a big deal is if you look, lot 7, 8, and 9 are barely 85.
Well, does 9 say it's 76 feet?
9 says 76.
Well, that's the one dimension. There's
76
another dimension.
before the curve, and that's another concern as well, because that curve length is 16 feet, but that's from the start of the curve to the end of the curve. So in reality, it might be close. That one might be 9 feet, but C4, that curve is only 60 feet. So
maybe we can ask staff if they have additional information on this one.
Well, I think they're going to say, yeah, I agree. But yeah, I just, my question is, it has to be 85.
Yeah.
And I think we might be within a foot of losing a lot.
Yeah, I mean, recommendation from staff in item 3 is each lot shall be a minimum of 85 feet wide.
Get there.
So,
and
yeah.
I would argue that 5 might not even be 85. I mean, it's hard to tell exactly if you went from the dark black line all the way to the property line between 5 and 6, but it does not look like 85 feet. And I definitely see that 6 is not 85 feet.
So it's showing 16.52 feet and then whatever C4 is.
C4, which is
And
60.
C4, it's just blown out. I'm looking at their plan in our
It's
packet,
60.
and it's 59.99.
Yeah, it's 60 feet.
So it's
So
76
it's
feet total.
Exactly. And then C3.
76.51 feet.
And C3 curve is 38 plus your 31, so that's 60. 69 plus C8 is only 10, so that's 79 for lot 5.
May I? So I know it may
I
appear.
actually like this design better. I'm worried that it's not achievable.
Sure.
Chair, this is Jeremy Draper with Reeve and Associates. Can I just ask a question, staff?
Feel free.
With the setbacks on those curves, is the setback measured at the width of the lots, is that measured at the setback line, that front setback line? That's typically what we see along those interior curves like that, is the width of the lot is measured, 20 feet into the lot, which would give us the 85 feet that you're speaking of.
I thought we only did that on cul-de-sacs, guys.
Yeah, I agree. It's, that exception is specific to cul-de-sacs.
And just to speak to your concerns, Adam, we did measure these. I believe we used Bluebeam and ArcGIS, and they did come up to the 85 or greater. So we did verify.
I just don't see how it's 85 based off of what it says here.
The plat information that's in our packet does not.
It does not say 85 in the packet.
I'm sorry, on which lot?
5 and 6, and it looks like 9 potentially, depending on how
Nine's
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Because that radius is 10 feet. So
Okay.
you're 86 on that one.
Okay.
Well, again, the
But I guess
condition
my
is written.
concern is, unless they slide the whole Sky Haven to the north to gain land,
Yep.
that's the only way to achieve that. To try and get more length there for lots 5 through 9, because if you look, you're kind of strapped at 7, 8, and 9 already. Like Andy was just saying, if that's the case, and so it sounds like we may need to have them just take this back and look at it. From my opinion, I actually think this is a better plan. I think it's a better option, but I think it might make it not possible to build.
Well, and that's the recommendation on item 3, right? The recommendation says
Yeah.
it has to be 85. So if they're not meeting that, then
Well, that's the requirement.
that's a requirement.
So
Yeah, that's straight from the ordinance, right?
yeah,
Yep.
it is.
Right, and we can, between preliminary and final,
Yeah.
if that's required, we can lose a lot, and that's not technically a violation of our process.
Right.
If for some reason we are able to verify that maybe there's a dimensional error or a notation that's incorrect, and the 85 feet is achievable, then we're okay. But
Well,
if
and
you want to
again-
see that resolved, that's an option that the planning commission can require tonight, of course.
And the other requirement was the 10,000 square foot lot. So if they do shift Sky Haven north, they could still achieve the 85 with the 10,000 square foot lot, likely. It's going to require an adjustment to what they've got here to achieve that.
I personally would just like to see it because I think it's going to shrink 9. It's going to shrink all those lots pretty small. But that's just me. Again.
Well, and we've got the requirements. I guess if it's a slight adjustment, I don't really, as long as they're meeting the requirements.
Yeah, if
I
they're
don't
required
need
to
see
have
it again.
85 feet,
Yeah,
I don't need to see it
it's
again.
already in there.
to me, it's just they're going to lose a lot if they can't accomplish it.
Yeah. And those lots, 1, 2, 3, 4 are going to get bigger, for sure.
This is
So-
Jake. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So would it, we're not, would a cul-de-sac that was basically flipped the other direction, the original design was putting a cul-de-sac that butted up against 7300, would a cul-de-sac at the other end butting up against the private lane? I mean, that would technically meet the code as far as being able to have a cul-de-sac that would allow for the setback measurement. And then lot 1 and 9 would order that similar to what previously, lot 4 and 5 would be.
What you're saying is possible, but without seeing it, I couldn't tell you yes or no. I mean, I think your thinking is probably in line, but without seeing it, I couldn't give you a definitive yes or no.
Isn't that requirement just for the lots on the cul-de-sac and not?
Yeah, it's just the
So it
lots
wouldn't,
on the
it
cul-de-sac.
wouldn't do anything for them because those lots wouldn't be on the cul-de-sac, unless we went back to this.
He's
but
saying
this-
if he flipped the cul-de-sac the other way.
No, I know, but those lots that would be adjacent to the cul-de-sac are the ones on the east, which aren't in violation.
Oh, no, they'd have to push everything if they did it that way.
Yeah.
They'd have to adjust it still, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I don't know if it would work. I don't know.
I don't think it would, just because
Yeah.
they're all rectangle on that east side there, so.
Clint?
All right.
Looking through our ordinance here in our definitions, when the measurement, so it talks about lot width of where that is measured at. And that is measured at the setback line.
It's in the
At the front yard
definition.
setback line.
Yeah.
I pulled it up here just in blue beam and just did a quick measurement. It looks like,
So it could be 85 is what you're saying?
yeah, measuring off the blue beam, off of the PDFs that they sent in, it looks to be the what is it, lot 5 that's on the corner?
Mm-hmm.
That looks to be 85, and the one interior to that, whether that's 6 or 4, that one looks to be very close as well. So it's,
Yeah, that's
we'll
number
verify
6.
that before, but that is how the lot width is measured.
Okay. Did you get that, Adam?
Okay, I didn't know that. I thought that was only on cul-de-sacs. My bad.
Yeah. The specific exception is written for the cul-de-sac. I didn't know that the lot width definition actually specifies that as well.
Okay.
And that's what Clint was referring to.
All
All right.
Awesome, thank you.
So the requirement's there, they gotta meet it. We know what the standards are, so I think that's.
I'm good now.
I think you could sit down, Nick, if you wanted to. You could hang out up there as well if you like. All right. Thank you for the clarification, Clint. All right, is there any other discussion or questions that the Planning Commission needs to address?
I have a question. With the accessing of that private lane, do they need an agreement for that to access it if it's going to connect to it? I'm just curious.
How does that work with the private lane? Because technically, it's just is no different than a private lane off of any road that accesses.
Are you
Like a city
speaking
road
about
to
the
a private lane?
request to relinquish?
I'm just curious,
Well,
like what we do when
I guess sort of how it works. Is that sort of what you're?
Because I guess you could flip it, right? If a private lane goes to a city road, then it's the same as a city road going to the private lane.
Well, I think like 6,000 has a
Yeah.
road that has private lanes off of it, and it's just it's a access point off of it.
Yeah.
And so.
So I guess the question is the permanent access off of 73rd, or is there permanent additional access off the private lane?
You can only count you can't count private lanes.
Yeah.
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 So the only permanent legal access is off of 73rd.
So 7,300, 100% has to be there because that is their permanent access point.
And and then private lane, they can close it whenever they want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then my
Chris,
question,
my one other concern is that we're requiring lot 1 to have an easement on it perpetually until it develops. That 12-foot easement, if you look in the packet, it shows that they actually are putting the road, the current private access, on lot 1. It's already there. So that's why they're proposing a 12-foot easement.
Mm-hmm.
It says that will be, if you go back to your plans, you can see it, and it's too zoomed out. You can kind of see it in this one on the red, but whoever's driving, but
nobody's driving.
the 12-foot, it's called a 12-foot temporary access easement to be vacated upon development of adjacent property. But if you look at the construction, it pinches lot 1 down by 12 feet from the 85 for the whole lot by that easement until it's abandoned.
So they can't develop lot 1 until it is developed, or abandoned then, right? Because they're not meeting
That's
Is
what I
that
think
what that
we might
means?
want to address in our motion is that lot one can't be developed until that road.
Well, they,
Right.
they need a setback there anyway, though. Of course, it would change the setback.
It would change the width as well, the 85.
Because it's barely 85. I'm just saying that was the only thing that,
Oh, you're looking at the same thing I've got.
whoever's driving, scroll to a different picture, please. It's probably too small to see, but you can kind of see the easement right there, the easement language right there.
Well, I think Nick can address this. He's walked up. He didn't want to sit down.
Sorry, I came up to drive.
All right. Based off what Adam's talking about, did you have additional information on that, or?
Could you repeat the question, Adam? I was walking up. I was paying attention to my step.
Yeah, I was muted. So lot one, if you look at lot one, it's kind of hard to, at this scale to see, but if you look at lot one, you'll see that it says 85 feet total and that there is a 12-foot temporary access easement to be vacated upon development of adjacent property. Basically means that lot one, in my mind, because there's actually a road there, a private road that was there before this development, needs to be there. And so lot one will not be able to be developed until that temporary easement is abandoned. Because the private road that goes up and feeds Sky Haven, the official Sky Haven that's been there for years, was a private road that was developed in the county. And it looks like it straddles this property line and goes down. And if you look at their development plans on different drawings throughout the packet, it shows that existing roadway is almost centered right within that property line. So it looks like it will be paved for a long time. And it actually says an IFC rated hammerhead turnaround would be what they're proposing right now, which is totally fine. But I think it will limit that lot one cannot be built on.
Because it's not enough width.
Because it wouldn't meet the 85 feet now. And I'm not saying eventually it would once they figured out a better access when the development I can't read the parcel number, but basically the development to the due east of where Skyhaven Drive would stub into is developed.
Perhaps.
Commissioner, this is Jeremy with Reven Associates. Can I just maybe address some of that too?
Yeah.
So it would be our understanding that, the lot width, legal lot width of lot one would still be 85 feet wide. The 12-foot easement allows for the right of that use for the access. We've also got some utilities in there, but that would allow the developer of lot one to build up to that 12-foot line there, where typically you would have a setback, a side yard setback, but that side yard setback would fall within that lot line. And so until, you're correct, until that roadway to the east is developed and that easement is vacated, lot one unfortunately will have that roadway through their lot. But by legal definition, the lot itself is still 85 feet wide and meets the requirements of city code.
Chase, do you have a remark to that?
I would agree with that. The nature of an easement is such that it just grants a temporary interest in the land, right? Not necessarily an ownership interest, but an interest to use the land. And that would not encumber it such that it would reduce the usable land of the owner, if that makes sense.
I've just never seen where we allow a perpetual road. Sorry about that, but that's the one that I've never seen us do that. So, but it's kind of an infill piece. I understand that, but that just concerns me personally. Because the one of the neighbors that stood up to talk about it, 7300 West has been planned to be developed forever anyway, and so I just would like to try and protect that these plans have been developed before these subdivisions get installed for years.
Thank you, Adam. Any additional discussion on that? All right. Any additional questions or discussion on item 3.2? Or are we ready to make a motion? I'll look for the planning commission to make a motion at this point then.
Did we ever resolve the storm drain thing?
Yes.
Yeah, they said that there was going to be enough detention
Yeah,
that's south of it.
yeah, they talked about the detention earlier.
So we can't put a restriction on development of lot 1? Is that what I'm hearing? Because it's all,
Well, I think
It's an
I
easement.
think it's answered by the 85-foot width,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
so. Looking for a motion from the planning commission.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve item 3.2 with staff's 14 recommendations and a 15th recommendation stating the lots 4 and 5 have their driveways placed as far east as possible.
On Skyhaven
I'll second
Drive.
it.
Yeah.
Motion by Andy, a second by Adam. We'll call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And Andrea?
Yes.
All right, thank you. We'll now move on to item 3.3, which is a request. Yeah, thank you to the applicant as well. 3.3, which is a request for a site plan review and approval for single-family building elevations for Teton Village Phase 1 and Jackson Village Phase 2. And we'll look for city staff for additional information on the item.
Good evening. You guys hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
All right. So the applicant's requesting a review and approval of building elevations for Teton Village Phase 1 and Jackson Village Phase 2. The subdivision here is located up here in the north end of the city. And it's part of the Teton Ranch PUD. As part of the approval for Teton Ranch PUD, when Jackson Village and Teton Village came in for their final site plan approvals, the conditions the Planning Commission set was that the elevations for all buildings came back to them to review to make sure they were compliant with the Teton Ranch design guidelines. The applicant has submitted approximately, well, for the Jackson streetscape, so the Jackson Village, we have 24 elevations they've submitted. I have reviewed these. I did sit down for a minute with Wright Homes, design architect, went over the minimum requirements, as that's pretty much what they built to. Those requirements are 40% brick or stone, a minimum roof pitch of 412, 3 architectural features on the front, and 2 architectural features on the side and rear of the homes. These were the elevations submitted for the Teton streetscape. This is the color board they submitted. So as you guys mentioned earlier, they're kind of pretty neutral colors or tone colors. These are just some examples. These are some products that they actually have in a different development. These don't meet the requirements as far as design standards go for Teton Ridge. These are just examples to show color variations in their designs. And I'm sure you guys have plenty of questions for me. So, and we actually do have the architect for Wright Homes is with us here today as well.
All right. Questions for staff at this point? We may call you back up after we talk to the applicant.
Okay.
So for clarification, the red in these two that just flashed on the screen, this is not what we're approving?
These are the actual these are the home elevations. They're built in a different community. They're out of the Juniper Bend, but they don't meet the stone and brick requirements of Teton Ridge. They didn't have the renderings ready at this time. They just wanted to give you at least a color rendition of what the homes that look like, showing their elevations with their color boards.
So the color scheme is on those?
Yeah, it's technically their color scheme.
And so potentially we'll have brick or stone in different areas and different heights. And I think, was that similar to the very first slide you showed of these where, if you want to go back a couple. So is this showing, I mean, is the dark potentially where the stone's going to be? I mean, is that what we're seeing?
Yeah, so the dark areas are where the stone's going to be.
Okay.
I was going to add individual elevations, but there was about 50 elevations. I'm not sure if you wanted to go through each one of those one by one.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time, or we can have the applicant come up and maybe share additional information? Is the applicant present? Great. If you want to just share your name and then any additional information you would like to share.
Sure. My name is Mark Selig. I'm the Architectural Design Manager at Wright Homes. These are all new floor plans to Wright Homes that we started developing in December. I was given the design lines about 3 weeks ago. As far as to know how much stone. I've made sure that each one of these meets the measurements of stone or brick. They will each have 2 elements on the front being either hardy board and board and bat, hardy board and shake. Items of that nature in the front, we will have contrasting colors between the pop-outs around the windows and doors and things like that as the main body of the building. And along the sides, we also, at the bottom, we put a big, large stucco band on the stucco sides. Any side of the building that will be a corner lot or adjacent to the outside of the community will also be enhanced with stone, meeting the 40% requirement.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? I guess the architect of the applicant.
I'm just curious if you can, Michael, do you have, in our packet, it's item 82.
Oh, he's looking at some of the colored photos in the packet?
Yeah.
Page 82?
Oh, in the packet itself. Okay.
Yeah.
The color renders, sir, the only reason they're in there is to show the massing of the home as far as, so you can see better the build outs on top of the roof where it shows the dormer with the windows, things like that. It is not representational of what we're actually going to be building in that community. We just don't have our renders back.
Okay.
We've been begging for them.
Yeah.
Did
This
you have
is
a
a slide from the actual development agreement
Yeah.
you're referring to.
Is that, can you show 82?
I don't have ability to project that. I could show you, want me to send you the link? Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And then page 82, correct, Brody?
Mm-hmm. Page 82.
Okay. Do you have a question for the applicant, or should we have him sit down?
I'm just waiting for this image to come up.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
Brody, you're just basically saying that doesn't look anything like these?
Yeah, that's my point.
Okay.
And just like the color palette, I don't see a lot of these colors in our, and
That's a
diversified
photo.
materials.
That's a photo taken inside my design center. That's not the entire color palette of what we offer. That's just what we had out at the time.
Okay, well, I guess that's what we're trying to approve, so that,
There'll be browns, there'll be grays, there'll be natural earth tones, whites. There won't be any like deep reds, deep blues, things like that.
Is there a way to add 3-car garages on these, or is it just?
No, they will all be 2-car garages.
What Brody's referring to is on page 82, The
Yeah,
majority of
it's
what
up
we
now,
saw
Adam.
were three-car garages, so.
Well, yeah,
a
for,
lot more.
Yeah, most of them, yeah, I can't tell if they're two or three.
for,
They're all two car.
Actually, about
yeah,
half
they're
are
all,
two-car
looks like they're all
They
two.
look like
Two-car
two.
garages.
I guess what I'm struggling with is I see a lot of architectural elements in these are our design guidelines that we were provided. And the current elevations that we have, that we're approving, lack a lot of architectural elements from like
That we were shown.
diversified color palette. Over the roof line, there's other features that add interest. And I would say these are very nice, and the current building elevations lack a lot of these elements or colors. So, and let's see, page 84. I'm a little confused too, because the states at Teton Ranch, if you can go to page 84, I don't see anything for what we're approving that looks anything like this.
If I were to build one of those homes in Teton Ranch with the width of the lot, my
Yeah.
product is only 35 feet wide.
Uh-huh.
That house right there's garage has got to be 35 feet wide. A three-car garage is 20 feet plus 12 feet, so 32 feet. You would have all garage on a forward face.
Some of these might be on Teton Ranch south of the,
Gotcha.
yeah, the larger lots. So some of these should be located south of that.
Okay.
Can I maybe add a little bit to what you're
Yeah,
saying?
go for it.
So I think Brody's kind of gone right where I was headed, but I think a lot of the little details are all, we just can't see them yet, because all we got was the little teeny postage stamps for each
Wait
one.
just a second. Do you have one of the slides that's got the bigger blown up elevations that you can put up there real quick? I can.
Because I think, for example, you can see all the little, if you look at the pictures on the screen now, you can see there's corbels, you can see there's features.
If you give him a second,
adjustments.
he's gonna send a blow up of our elevation.
Did you say they're in the packet? Because
What page?
we have the packet. That's what's
Yeah,
up
this
right
is
now.
the packet.
This is the packet, so.
So what page is it that he's referencing?
Yeah, because we don't, I mean, all of them are,
There's actually sheets that'll have
Black and
three
white.
elevations on them.
Probably, yeah, 93, 94 maybe.
yeah, they're, I mean, I think it's,
It was
let's see.
in the packet, it was
those
100
two.
and, 103.
Oh, 103,
Okay.
yeah.
On this elevation, on those elevations, which are a little bit bigger and you can see the detail a little bit better, there are corbels in the top. There are vents up in the gables. There are shutters on some of our elevations. There's different elements mixed in on the, as far as articulation on the columns. They're not just a square box.
Yeah, I guess I'm struggling personally to see like some of the design guidelines show prominent entryways, and I don't see that on any of the building elevations that were provided that are the actual building.
And it might be just the renderings that we're seeing here.
It could be. It's hard to see because it's
These are
flat
basic
with it
line
being black
drawings.
and white.
If it'll help you any, all of the porches on every single home in both of these are at least 6 feet deep, and they're all forward of the garage.
Okay.
They protrude out in front of the garage.
But maybe what Brody's alluding to is all the doors are 3 feet only. There's no side light. It's just
Right.
3-foot door only.
With a 35 width for a home and 20 foot of it being garage, I'm really limited as to what fits in that little space.
Yeah,
I mean,
I get where you're coming from, but
I can go in there and look at adding different style
Yeah.
of doors, maybe something with some glass in it, something like that.
yeah, to me it looks really flat, but it could be the images, because like the design guidelines that we're given, like there's a lot of depth. It says, oversized overhang, prominent entryway. These elements are hard to see with the renderings that we have.
Okay.
And then the color palette that you showed doesn't have a lot of the colors or variation that I'm seeing in the design guidelines, if that makes sense.
I think and maybe I can, the ones that say building rendering, on 123, 124, 125, those are the ones that are also in our packet. I think these renderings actually do a disservice to what
Yeah.
you're showing on your other drawings.
These
do not do justice to what I've
right,
designed.
and I would say you're probably better off if they weren't in there.
You know what? I 100% agree.
So,
But I was asked to provide renders, and our renderer is, he tells me now, as of today, he's 6 weeks out. He's killing me. He said 2 to 3 weeks when I first sent it to him a month ago, so.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what I'm struggling with. I look at page 86 of our packet and I look at this and I mean, architecturally, you can see a lot of elements popping, different materials being used that create diversity, create visual interest, have dimension, and then the renderings that we were given that show the color palette that is.
Yeah, the product on this, it looks a lot more
Substantially
impressive
better.
than the renderings we saw, obviously.
And that's what I'm struggling with is tonight we're trying to say, we're good with the color palette, building renderings, and I'm not there with what we currently have.
Being shown.
Yeah.
Is that a motion or?
Pretty much.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant first, though? Before we
I don't know. I think we've given you kind of our fill of
Mm-hmm.
what we're trying to approve isn't there for us, and that's not a knock on you at all. Obviously, it's what you've been given to work with.
Yeah,
But
it may be there, we just can't visualize it.
yeah, it's hard to see with it black and white, and then
Yeah.
the color palette is on a different product. So
Yeah, thank you, Brody. Michael, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to make sure that the commission had seen page 80 in your packet. This is labeled prototypical architecture and landscape. So I appreciate some of the members' concern about the images shown on 80, what was that, 82. But you can see the architectural design elements are much simpler when you read the actual text of the architecture. I mean, they have an illustration that complies with those. Maybe it overachieves, but the architectural designs are listed on page 80. I just wanted to make sure you saw as far as what those standards are, and that I believe is what our staff was reviewing when we looked at the elevations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just it's a little bit difficult to sit here and approve when we saw renderings given to us today that are not this product, even though these are the architectural designs and landscape designs. And so I think that was the part that I think Brody really emphasized, and I agree because, and it's happened a couple times when things have been approved and it's had the ability to slip through at a lower standard than what was shown, because this is a really good standard that we're looking at right now. It really is a nice product.
Can I make a comment about this exact sheet?
Sure.
Okay. By the text, we meet the guidelines. That photo couldn't be built in that community on any of our lots. So to me, in all honesty, it would help me a lot, and understand I'm new to right homes, if the photos that were in here also met the guidelines. Because that's got a wraparound porch that I couldn't put the porch in the 2-car garage on a lot of those lots.
yeah.
And some of that probably be relevant to Teton Ranch, the next phase as well.
And I realize that.
Absolutely.
But when you look at that and then you look at our design, we're not gonna look at a thing like that. But it's really hard to look at a 3-car, $500,000 home and say, I'm building a 55 and older community home that is a Rambler home, in our case for Teton, that's only 35 feet wide.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's really tough for me to put that on a little bitty house like that. So.
Jackson?
Yeah, I would say in going back to the black and white line drawings, that it appears that it does meet the requirements, and the form is actually really quite nice. I think it's got some nice form to it, better than many of the other buildings we've seen come through here as far as houses. I think it might be just the colors that are the issue. So I could almost say we could approve the form, and then maybe the colors come back.
I mean, I can get with our designer as far as for colors and bring you a better color palette more suited to what you're looking for.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. And as far as our brick, none of our brick on any of our homes is lick and stick brick. It's all full 4-inch brick. So
Awesome.
there's a lot of articulation.
Okay, I like that.
I have this thing about that fake brick.
I've never heard that. I like it. Lick and stick, huh?
I've heard it, I like it.
We like real brick.
All right. I think you can have a seat at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Planning Commission, I guess discussion on this item?
I don't know, maybe it's a learning opportunity, but it's hard when we get these packets and we look at these designs and we feel like that is what we're approving. Maybe, yeah, it's a call out to us to do a better job in capturing these additional elements that should be part of what the building elevations look like themselves. So we're not getting a totally different product from what visually we're being shown. That's my takeaway.
Yeah, the renderings are definitely not as good as what we're looking at right now. And granted, we don't have all the colors and schemes and things like that to be able to visually see it quite as well. But I mean, you can definitely, Jackson pointed out, this looks a lot better than
These
the
have
rendering.
some nice forms to them. They've got
Yeah.
some nice composition. I think the scale is correct.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of adding a window to the door. I think that would, really, give it a nice little pop. But I think overall, we can't approve colors from a black and white drawing. But I think if we could approve maybe the form and the elevations themselves, but then have the color come back to us.
I'm just, and
That's kinda
this
what
is
I'm thinking.
my own struggle, but the Craftsman 2 versus the Farmhouse, I not really seeing the difference between the elements. Like,
And it's easier to see when there's colors. I agree.
I think we should just say bring the renderings back so we can actually see it. But that's me.
that's how I'm feeling.
I would say, from my opinion, is bring the renderings back. You don't need to change anything as far as what's there, but add the right colors to it.
Yeah, I think adding the colors to the actual elevation
Yeah.
is what I'm looking for. So so we're not looking at color schemes on a different house.
Is it safe to say, Brody, that some of the images which we saw in here with the color schemes you did like?
Well, I was just having a hard time with the renderings that we have in our design guidelines and how those compare.
But I mean, like the color schemes on what you see on your screen right now, some of those.
Yeah, I just didn't see several of those color
Yeah.
schemes in our material board.
Okay.
It looked really flat or bland and lacked.
I just want to make sure that the applicant has enough direction if he feels that way. Okay, I think he does then. Then at this point, look for a motion. Which I believe sounded like to continue to bring back with all the renderings, but
That's kind of
Yeah.
what
I could be wrong.
I'd like to make a motion for item 3.3, request for site plan review and approval for single-family building elevations for Teton Village. Make a recommendation to, what is it?
Continue with
Yeah,
update.
continue this item until, do we have to say a further date?
I think we just say without date. And then
Okay,
usually-
without date.
Usually that gives them the opportunity to come back when they have the renderings finished. Yeah. Motion by Brody.
Let me add one thought on the renderings, and I know how big a job this is, so that's why I'm bringing it up. Do we need to do rendering for all 50 elevations, or can we have select maybe 3 of, for example, what's on the screen now? Can we have him do?
I think it'd be nice to have one per, like Madison, Hartfield, Newport, one per building elevation. That'd be my suggestion, just so we can see how it looks or
So, for
works.
example, we've got 1, 2.
Can we ask the applicant what he currently has in the works? Do you have renderings for all of them or for? Okay. Okay.
Okay. Cool. I would say renderings, then, just like you said it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second by Adam.
Adam's done.
So motion by Brody, second by Adam. And then we'll call for a vote. Andrea?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
All right, thank you, guys. We'll move on to item 3.4, which is a request for conditional use approval for the site plan of a freestanding emergency room. And it looks like this is Clint. Is this you, Clint? Or, yep, there we go.
Sheldon can take over if he wants to.
I think he
gladly
does.
step aside. It's no problem.
He looked pretty eager to get up there.
He's itching, I know.
All right, thank you.
All right, well, it's good to be with you again tonight. First off, I just want to state for the record that we've been working with the applicant for a little while on this one, probably a couple of months, and they've been very cooperative, and so we've appreciated that with them. They've accommodated a lot of our requests, so hopefully we're bringing a little bit better product here before the Planning Commission than we first received. And I believe that they are on the call today too. So this is a request for a freestanding emergency room just south of the city building on Harriman Rose Boulevard. This is our site plan proposal. You can see where the building location, and to the west of them is they're proposing a large amenity lawn, about 195 trees, not including the street trees, and then I'll get into the consideration a little bit more. So the things that we're looking at in terms of standards, we're measuring against the Harriman Town Centered Master Development Agreement, and then in terms of zoning compliance and the conditional use compliance. So in terms of the Harriman Town Center Master Development Agreement, you can see the use is showing in that yellow outlined area is designated as commercial, which complies with the plan itself. There are some design standards that I'll get to as well. Then in terms of conditional use, in terms of compatibility, they're located between a residential use and a highly commercial use. With a large landscaped area, this seems like a good buffer from one use to the next. There was a question of noise and light issues, and in their standards and procedures, it does sound like that will be a limited use once they get closer to the facility, because this will be a 24-hour facility. So once they get closer to the facility, the lights and sirens will go away to not disturb neighbors and adjacent property owners there. And that's probably something that the applicant can speak better to as well. In terms of the site impacts, aesthetically, this will kind of set the standard for that area. With Walmart facing to the south, this kind of establishes the aesthetic standard for that area behind Walmart, where other buildings will be constructed. They'll be required to meet existing buildings that are there now. And this building is probably a cut above what it already exists there in terms of the material, the design. In terms of services, there are already existing streets. Everything is already kind of there. And then in terms of emissions, I couldn't really identify anything that this facility would emit that would be disturbing, neighbors and other adjacent properties. And then health safety, if anything, this adds to the health and safety of the neighborhood by providing a closer location for folks to go to in terms of emergency. So in terms of compliance, we looked at the parking, and this is a tough one. So it's been conditioned, the application came in as a conditional use for a medical service, which has a different parking standard than a hospital. But this is, so the medical service, I think, depends on the number of doctor's offices in the building. And where this doesn't really have a doctor's office, it's based more off of a hospital type use. So in that requirement, there's only 20 stalls required, and they are providing 40 stalls. And that 20 stalls was based on about 20 exam rooms that people could potentially be in. So they're exceeding their parking requirement, and probably likely, it's probably a good thing that they have a little extra parking than they need, depending on the staff that will be there. But in terms of their overall parking design, maybe I discuss this. Maybe it's here. Anyways, in terms of their overall parking design, there's not a lot of wasted asphalt. And what I mean by that is they're using their asphalt for accesses or you know, they're not squaring off things, or you know, where they have the curves, instead of squaring off asphalt to include landscaping. That's something that we like to see, that provides a little more open space on the property itself. In terms of landscaping, the city does require 70% live growth. The only concern we had from a staff standpoint is that in some of the areas where they're showing just trees and then they're showing a rock mulch underneath that, so the trees wouldn't count towards, well, all landscaped areas in the city are required to have 75% live growth on them. And so they have these trees that don't count towards that 70% live growth. The tree canopy doesn't count. So they would just need to show that they're planting additional plantings in that rock mulch, so that, you know, at maturity, those plants will cover 75% of the area that they're of those landscaped areas. So then we get into the standards of the Harriman Town Center Design Standards. And there's, so I provided a better analysis in the staff report than I will here. But essentially there's you know, a number of principles they need to meet by implementing certain design standards. And some of the elements they provided to meet those principles, first they have a decorative cornice, a variation in color and materials, a well-defined entrance on both sides of the building, wall plane elevations, or wall plane variations, excuse me, and then the portico shares as well, that provide some variation to the building and interest. The only correction that we would recommend from a architectural standpoint is we didn't see any screening materials for the dumpster enclosure, and then for the generator on the back side of the building as well. So we would just recommend that they provide those and do so in a manner that matches the materials of the building, and we'd recommend the brick material for that. Then in terms of landscaping elements, as I stated, they have provided this large amenity lawn, which will be a great amenity for not only the folks that visit the emergency center, but also for the community in general. They do meet the 20-foot setbacks along the street frontage. They have foundation plantings. So what that is basically just plantings around the foundation of the building to soften the architecture from the street. As you look at their parking, it is broken up very well with landscaping. The entrance, the sidewalk entrance from, from Fort Harriman Parkway, that is also a nice design feature, well landscaped, well-defined entrance into the building. And then again, as I stated, it's an efficient parking design. In terms of correction, some of the things that we would require them to show is the street trees on Town Market Street. Show street tree locations to meters and hydrants and access. It was interesting as I kind of got into the design details in the landscaping. They're very detailed. They even go down to the types of sprinkler heads that they can put in place. I don't know if we'll get into that kind of scrutiny here, but it definitely has a lot of detail to go through. But just providing that spacing from trees to meters and hydrants and access will be helpful to make sure that the trees that get planted there can stay there and don't get ripped out when they cause a problem. One of the requirements where they're showing this path that goes through this lovely amenity area, they're currently showing a 4-foot crushed stone, and in the design requirements it does require for an 8-foot wide crushed stone path, which will provide a little bit nicer access. And then we're not requiring this, but we would just like the applicant to consider a few alterations to this. First off, just the locations where they're providing access. Some of them seem less accessible, I guess you could say. And so these red lines that I've shown on our plan here would be some proposed accesses, and then the other ones that, so there's this access that comes off of the east side that kind of faces towards the porte cochere on the west side of the building. And to me, that it seems to cause a lot of pedestrian problems, especially as you have emergency vehicles moving in and out of there, or that just seems like a lot of pavement to cross. So if they move that a little further to the north and connect that with a sidewalk as it's being shown there, that seems to make a little more sense. And then on the west side, off of Town Market Street, providing another access, just directly from the corner that would provide easier movement through there. These are just things, like I said, these are things that we're hopeful that the applicant will consider, and then installing a few benches for people to enjoy. Not a requirement, just as consideration. So with that being said, with our requirements of approval, we do feel like it meets the Harriman Town Center MDA, the conditional use standards, and all other zoning requirements. And we recommend approval and with these requirements here. Any questions for me?
I like your suggestions for the pedestrian access. I think those are good suggestions. Hopefully they'll work with you on those.
Yeah. I do as well. Any other questions for Clint? All right, thank you. I see the applicant's online. If you want to just state your name and I guess unmute yourself and share any additional information.
Sure. My name is Ross Lucas. I'm with Homer Lucas Engineering. We're the civil engineer for the project. I know the project architect is on the call as well. Just say we certainly appreciate having worked with staff to this point. We think we are presenting a project that will be good for the citizens in the area, and just appreciate your consideration. And I'll also state that we don't have any concerns with any of the conditions of approval. We're happy to work with to get the access, if not identical, then certainly similar to what was recommended there. So no concerns from our end, and happy to meet any of those conditions.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Jackson?
Yeah, I have a kind of a thought. Oftentimes with the medical building of this size, especially with a lot this size, this might be the first of two buildings or the first wing of a larger building. Are there plans for expansion with this? Or I know sometimes even the FGI will ask for that too. So any comments on expansion or additional buildings?
Sure. Yeah, I can speak to that. And frankly, this was a large part of the recent discussion with planning staff. We certainly have laid this out with the intent that would give the owner flexibility should they decide to do another building in the future. Obviously, with the nearly 200 trees that are being proposed on the west, there's no immediate plans for that. Certainly, if that is decided upon in the future, then that would be brought as another site plan as we've done here. But no, there are no plans. We have designed this in a way that would give them some flexibility to do that should they decide to in the future. But no current plans.
Thank you. And I appreciate the additional field. It's an ideal place for turkey bowls. They don't have to walk very far after. So.
And this is J.D. Drosbeck. I'm the administrator at Lone Peak Hospital, who's the administrative lead for the building of the Harriman Emergency Center. In addition to it being a great place for turkey bowls, we're really excited to be given the opportunity to help give the community and help address many of your emergent needs. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your comment. All right. Planning Commission, any additional discussion? Oh, sorry, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add a couple of things. I'm the project architect. There was a couple of comments that I wanted to address real quick just to make sure that everybody's clear. So with regard to the 24-hour EMS and the lighting, the facility typically works with the EMS drivers that work in the area, and they understand kind of the protocol there, that this facility typically isn't bringing patients into the facility. It's only emergent care. So if someone were to show up at the ED, needed to be transported, that the EMS drivers would then come and bring them to Lone Peak Hospital. And so they know the procedures for that. So they're not going to be coming in there at all hours of the day with lights and sirens, you know. With regard to the parking, we typically design these buildings. The standard is around 30 stalls, which is ample for the patient accessing this facility. So 40, we added an additional 10 here just in case. But 30 to 40 stalls should be ample for the building. And then I know I didn't provide Clinton with the dumpster enclosure detail, but we do have a 8-foot tall masonry wall that has a brick wainscoting with a stucco at the top, and we can apply that cornice detail to that as well. So we already have plans for that. I just did not give Clinton that information, so I apologize for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, any questions for the applicant or discussion amongst the planning commission? All right, then I'll look for a motion if there are none.
I do.
Oh, Brody has some. All right.
So with the amenity lawn, I don't know. I feel like we have limited commercial space, and I was just kind of looking overall, like as a region, how much open space we have around this area. Just curious. For me, I would like to see the commercial space being used for commercial purposes. So for me, I do like. I'm torn. I like the amenity of having the lawn, but then I was gone for a moment. Is there still the opportunity for them to utilize the amenity lawn for commercial later, or did they say anything about that?
Yeah, they said, I asked them if they can do an expansion, and they said they can.
Oh, okay.
So there could be a potential expansion later on if needed, it sounded like.
There's no immediate plans, but, correct me if I'm wrong, but no immediate plans, but they could.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
We met with some senior leadership from Lone Peak, and they need to essentially grow their market.
Yeah.
And so they're bringing services to our market, and they're hoping over time that they will build relationships with doctors and other medical offices. And so there's no commitment, no guarantee, but this is really their first step into our marketplace.
Okay.
So.
I like the flexibility there.
Great.
Yep. No, I like the look. I really do.
Yeah,
I
we
like it.
appreciate your hard work, the staff and applicant. Look for a motion from the planning commission at this time.
Make a motion to approve item 3.4, request for a conditional use approval for the site plan of a freestanding emergency room.
Motion by Lauren, second by Adam. And we'll call for a vote. Andrea?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
And Andy?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, guys. Then we'll move on to item 4.1, which is a request general plan amendment to review and provide recommendation of the active transportation plan. And this is on for a public hearing as well.
All right, this is a proposal for an amendment for, recommendation for approving the active transportation plan. This is a project that was worked on with city staff, particularly engineering, and some outside consulting to put together a comprehensive plan to establish pedestrian-oriented routes throughout the city. This plan kind of looks at the city in general and finds gaps in existing trail systems and sidewalks and looks at alternate routes for cycling lanes and et cetera. Another purpose of this is it gives an alternate mode of transportation to connect different types of land uses, gives pedestrians access, to commercial retail centers, schools, and et cetera, without having to access, vehicular modes of transit. They also analyze the streets and look at roadways and et cetera, and I guess put together safe practices on how to design these roads to help improve the safety for cyclists and et cetera, and walkways throughout the city. So Bryce and the consultants, Jeremy Sill and Jordan King are here, and they actually put together a presentation. So they'll kind of go through that and kind of fill you in on all the details a bit better than I probably could. So unless you have any questions for me, we can get these guys started.
I'm excited. Let's
Okay.
see what we got.
All right.
All right, thanks, Sheldon. So yeah, I'm Bryce Terry. I'm from the engineering department and kind of was a project lead on this. And our consultants are here from WCG and Kimley Horn were our two consultants that we actually had two companies working together to put together this active transportation plan. And this project actually came through a grant from Wasatch Front Regional Council. And so Wasatch Front and members of UDOT were also part of the steering committee, part of engineering, planning, also, and Parks all kind of had their input to get to this point where we have a draft plan in front of you guys. And so we just wanted to kind of give you an overview with a presentation, get kind of your thoughts and recommendations moving forward before we move to City Council, obviously. And so our Sheldon kind of covered the overview of an active transportation plan, but essentially to kind of reiterate that, we have a master plan for our vehicles, right, motorized vehicles, but we don't necessarily have a master plan for cyclists, pedestrians, those that ride horses, equestrian use, or those that just like to use the trails and recreate. And so we applied for the funds through Wasatch Front to get that grant money to be able to put together this plan, and luckily we were able to receive those funds. And so this is kind of the result of the last 6 months of working on an active transportation plan to kind of encompass Harriman, to create a network that enables a person to live in Harriman without driving their car necessarily. And Harriman has some unique circumstance, right? We are a little bit separated from a lot of business centers or job centers. And so that was a unique kind of challenge that we had to look at and see how we could address. And so I'll kind of turn the time over to our consultants, Jeremy and Jordan, to kind of talk about the plan, and then if we have any questions, we can go from there.
Okay, thank you, Bryce. My name is Jeremy Searle. I'm with WCG, and it's been a real joy to work with your staff here. They're amazing, and we had a lot of fun doing it. Just a quick introduction to our team. Again, my name is Jeremy. We've got Jordan here from Kimley Horn. He led the public outreach effort, and so he'll be talking about that in just a moment, as well as some of the other individuals that worked on this. To give a quick overview, I think Bryce and others have hit it really well, but an active transportation plan is really important. There's a lot of benefits to having one. It promotes healthy living. It improves safety. It gives a better quality of life. It gives other alternatives and equity to accessing those transportation alternatives. It improves air quality. It gives better accessibility to the key destinations. It reduces traffic congestion. It encourages economic growth and really just improves the livability of the community. And so these are important. We're really excited to talk about it today. We're going to go over some of the highlights. You have the whole draft plan in your packet, and so you can look at the details there. But we're just going to talk about some of those highlights. And to start off, we're just going to go over kind of the public involvement. So I'll let Jordan do that.
Thanks, Jeremy. My name is Jordan King. I am a public involvement and outreach specialist with Kimley Horn. I worked with WCG, UDOT, WFRC, and of course the city staff on this project. For the public outreach part of this, our main goal was twofold. One, to survey our residents, understand what their needs for active transportation are in the community, and then, of course, to verify that the data that the team collected matched up with the opinion of the residents. I actually live here in Harriman, so this was a really fun project for me to work on because it gets to impact me. Up here we have a collage of some of the different ways we engage the community to get responses to the actual survey itself. We worked with the communication staff here at the city to utilize their social media channels. We used Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. They also helped create a pretty good landing page on the city website with information about what an active transportation plan was, and then a link to a survey. Another thing we did was we used H-stake signs. They're like campaign signs on board. We placed those strategically throughout the city. There were about 35 of those at parks, trailheads, large areas where we have lots of walking traffic, to get people to kind of get a feel for what we're doing. And then there was a QR code with a link to the survey so that they could take that right away. Another tool we utilized was reaching out to parent-teacher organizations with several of the schools here in the community to try and get teacher and parent input, since a lot of our pedestrians are students, and we had a lot of success with that. I also spent some time outside of Smith's and Winco on Saturdays trying to talk to people and get them to fill out our survey. We ended up having a little over 401 survey responses. For a survey of this type, that's actually a fairly good response rate. To follow up after our survey, we did a public meeting. We had some live participation. We did that through Zoom webinar and also linked it to the Harriman City Facebook page, so it was broadcast live there as well. We had some interaction both on Zoom and on Facebook. And then we had over 1,000 views of that meeting after the actual presentation. One of our biggest takeaways from the survey and the public meeting were that the data that we collected is supported by public opinion. Residents overall wanted to see more trail connections, trails and paths in general. Those were the biggest yes, please on our surveys. Active transportation is very important to Harriman City residents. Walking, running, biking, hiking were listed as the largest priorities of different types of active transportation we asked them about. And then as we talk about biking, we gave them the opportunity to look at some renderings of different types of bike lanes, and the preference from residents was overwhelmingly buffered bike lanes. And it was noted through the comments that mostly for safety issues and concerns. So that's just a little bit about how we did some outreach to the residents, and then I'm going to hand it back to Jeremy to talk about the actual proposals.
Okay, thanks, Jordan. The big focus of our analysis as we went through this was to focus on the key destinations in Harriman. Harriman has a lot of really good places to go. You know, Blackridge Reservoir, the rec center, the canyons, the parks, the skate park, the rodeo. I mean, there's the schools. There's so many things in Harriman that people want to get to and want to recreate and do fun things with their family. So that was a big focus, and we wanted to make sure that we had good connections to all of those. So we analyzed those and the key gaps through there. This next slide here, and I know it's small, shows all of the existing and proposed active transportation facilities in the plan. And if you can see it on your screens there, it's a really good comprehensive network throughout the city. And so we're really excited about that and really feel that this will meet the needs of the citizens. We've kind of broken it up into pieces, and so I'm going to talk about each of those. The major pieces here, the first one we want to talk about is bike lanes. Okay, the buffered bike lanes are shown in yellow. Normal bike lanes are shown in the red. We do have one, what we call a bike boulevard. That's kind of a share-o, or where the bikes share the lane with the vehicles, and that's right around here around the city center. And that's primarily because we just didn't have the infrastructure to really do anything else there. Through the survey that Jordan mentioned, we found that people preferred the buffered bike lanes or standard bike lanes, so that's what we focused on through this. So you can see those throughout the city. We've got routes up to the canyons. We've got routes to a lot of the key destinations through Harriman here. Feel free to stop if you have questions, or we can ask questions at the end. But. This next section is paved paths, and so you can see those in green. The solid lines are the existing paved paths. This was another one that the citizens very strongly wanted more of. They enjoy using those paved trails, whether it's biking or walking, different things. So I feel like we've got a good connection there, and those all tie into bike lanes and things like that throughout the city.
Hey, I have one on that. I think one area that we really struggle with is the connection of pretty much, you can kind of see there's a north-south struggle right around Pioneer Street from about the skate park till you get past Old City Hall. And a lot of that area, we have a lot of right-of-way because it's the old town. But that last drawing really shows that. I think that's something maybe you guys could look at a little bit, is if you look, there's a ton of channel paths, which are awesome. But I just think connecting the ability to go to from the south to the north is a challenge through Old Town specifically.
I agree with you, and that is something that we talked about a lot. And ultimately, that's where you see that connection with these bike lanes here. So we've got paved path to the north, and then due to lack of right-of-way, we determined an on-street facility would work better. The other option is to purchase right-of-way along that whole thing, and that becomes very expensive. And so we do have bike lanes down that road, and then with trail to the north, but I agree it's a challenge.
But I'm talking about walking paths, because that's what I've seen struggle. I've walked almost everything from Harriman Boulevard to the south, but you really can't get to the north easily.
Yeah.
The future plan, right? I mean, you're going to have sidewalks, right? Engineering might be able to know that better, but that will have the sidewalks. You may not have a path, but you're going to have sidewalks as that's developed and improved along
But
that
not
reach.
through Old Town, Andy.
Yeah, through Old Town. That's what I'm asking, as they develop
Yeah,
that.
so Old Town's a little bit interesting, and maybe some of you were here, that an ordinance has actually been passed that we do not widen the Old Town roads. I wasn't here when that happened, but there is an ordinance basically that the Old Town residents kind of like the Old Town feel without improving it, without adding curb and gutter and sidewalk. And so that's why in that area, there is a lack of walking infrastructure. But I think it's a good point that we need to consider that maybe there's something that we can adjust or look at in that area to accommodate for pedestrians, because we do get concerns from parents that have their kids walking through that area to Silvercrest Elementary, for example, or to...
What you guys did on 129th with the paved trail within the right-of-way that's separated with the gravel, I think is a good initiative. I'm just saying a few more, maybe not every road to keep the Old Town, but some connection from the south to the north from a walkability perspective, I think is something just to look at as you continue down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's a good suggestion. I think we can take a look at that and see how we can maybe throw in some side trails that maybe aren't as wide as our mixed-use trails, where we have 8 to 10 feet on those trails, but maybe we could look at some smaller sections that we could fit in there and kind of check with the ordinance if we can fit those in there.
I was not aware of that ordinance, so it's good to know.
Yeah, I wasn't either until Blake brought it up a little while ago. And so, yeah, essentially unless we kind of come up with a proposal to change that ordinance, we're kind of locked into more of the unfinished area in Old Town. But again, that may be a discussion for a whole nother time, so.
And then the paved path that's going, all the way up, pretty much you're considering the paved path, Mountain View corridor going south. Is that what that is? Because I'm trying to remember what paved path.
Okay, yeah. So that's Mountain View corridor. They call it a paved path, but it is concrete. So it's really essentially a super wide sidewalk.
It's the road, right?
No, there is like a 10-foot wide sidewalk adjacent to the road.
Oh, that's what they're considering it? Okay.
Yeah, and so UDOT and Mountain View, they call it a paved path because it's not necessarily, but it is concrete. And so cyclists generally like to get in the bike lane where they're not hitting those, right?
That's why I was curious. I was like, I've never seen a cyclist anywhere except for on the road in that area.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
nobody walks that area.
yeah, because it's concrete, it's got the cuts and the joints in it. So generally, from what we've seen, the cyclists like to stay in the bike lane on Mountain View rather than use that. Further north on Mountain View, I think they kind of learned the lesson, and they do have asphalt trails kind of adjacent and even bridges over creeks that are separated.
The asphalt doesn't start until it gets into Daybreak.
Right, exactly. Yeah, far outside of Harriman. Yep, that's exactly what I meant. But
they do run, Chris, along the stretch through Crest all the time. There's a lot of runners that run on that giant sidewalk.
Oh, do they? Okay. Yeah, I've never seen a biker on it. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
I have a question.
The bikers are in the road, on the edge of the road, and the runners are on that paved, that concrete.
Yep.
Well, I'm guessing that what's going to happen, because that's Welby down farther to the east, and so that's Welby Trail right there, right? Is that what that is?
Yeah, kind of right at the border of Harriman city boundary. You can't see it, but yeah, that dotted line just to the east of that extra wide sidewalk that we were talking about.
I'm curious if that's going to be the next big connector all the way to the Mountain View Trail that's up there eventually for the individuals that don't want to be on the roads.
Yeah, and Jeremy can talk to this a little bit more, but also that connection south down to Porter Rockwell is intended so that we can connect to the Jordan River Trail system. Again, that's a little bit outside of our boundaries, but it is intended to make that connection that we can make a connection to the east to that Jordan River.
Left go to cooperate? Never mind, we won't go there.
I have a question for you. I saw on the plan you guys have like planned sidewalks on certain roads. Just curious if you have in here, I didn't see it, where like incomplete sidewalks on specific roads, if that makes sense. Like I live off 73rd West and there's like chunks where there's sidewalk, no sidewalk, sidewalk, no sidewalk.
Yeah, I'll let Jeremy talk to that. They did analyze that, so.
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is the proposed sidewalk. That was not the biggest focus of this. There's lots of places where we're missing sidewalk, but what we try to do is get those key ones that lead to schools and other key locations, because we want those to be there.
Yeah.
And so the rest would fill in as new development occurs or it gets redeveloped or improvements are made. So, but these are, as you can see on the map, these are the proposed sidewalks as part of the plan, those key gaps.
There's your connection, Adam, you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
On Mustang Trailway. Yeah.
So I guess, and this talks about that same area, but for the town center, I'm trying to think where it connects. I mean, it's more or less the sidewalks. There's no real paved trails that connect to the one that's going Midas Creek or the ones that are up in Rosecrest so much. There's not a lot of connection in the actual town center to those very easily, is there?
I'm gonna back up. So this is the full.
Because those are all roadways that connect, or am I wrong there?
Okay,
From the town center.
This is the full network. So I apologize. I wasn't exactly sure where you were.
Yeah, the town center's just out here. That's pretty much this area.
Yeah, just the loop
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, so we've got the trail along the road right here, and then we've got the shared bike lanes on the loop, and then the trail to the south.
Okay.
So I know where you're proposing that sidewalk as it heads to, and I think it might address what Chris is saying, is somehow connecting down into the town center, rec center area, because once you get there, it's kind of just sidewalk only. There's no real connectivity.
Yeah.
Since that's the center of the city.
Because I know, and there's a lot of individuals that go north, obviously on the paved trail for bikers, runners. It doesn't matter. It's really relatively safe. And I know some of what the hopes have been is, since we really have no true connection of the same type of path, going west and going all the way around Bacchus with something similar to that at some point. And then coming back, and we have Midas Creek as well, that'll be a connection of some sort. And so I guess that's, but I'm seeing nothing that connects into the town center area for those residents to easily get to one of those big trails that a lot of individuals like to use for running or biking. And so, because they can on the roads and sidewalks and some places like that, but there is no true 10-foot asphalt path for any of those that connects that I'm aware of, or even on this that I can see.
Well, okay, so we have one down on Fort Harriman Parkway, right? But are you talking to the north?
And maybe you can point out which one you're referencing. That.
Good question.
Maybe not.
I don't have a mouse. But just the green line.
Because I see the green line, but that's just a roadway, correct? That's on the road. Is that right? That's a bike lane on the road. Okay. And so that was the only question I had. Is pretty much we have missing path here. Like up by Black Ridge, we have a really nice path that goes through that community all the way into around the parks and everything else. Then down by Midas Creek, we have a nice path that goes up through there now that almost connects all the way to I guess the Mountain View Corridor Trail, as it's really relatively close to where that is. But we're lacking in the middle area anything that really connects to either of those areas.
Okay.
From the same concept
that
as
makes
that.
sense now. Thank you.
And it may be difficult to put something in there at this point.
Yeah, I think for most of our trail systems, we follow kind of a creek or some open space. And so with the town center, I don't think there was ever a plan for a trail to go through the town center because of that idea that most of our big trails follow a creek or some open space, or we connect into the Mountain View Trail. And so because there wasn't really a creek going right through town center, it's mostly sidewalk that we're seeing as far as connectivity. But I think there is a good point that maybe that's something we can consider and look at
To see if there's an option of something that can be done.
Yeah,
There may not be.
Exactly.
Chris, maybe it's just widening certain sidewalks to make it feel like it's a connected trail.
Yeah.
That's more of a thorough walking area than just a generic subdivision sidewalk.
Could it follow the pending tracks line?
It could follow the tracks line if that ever were to come in. There could be something there maybe.
Or be there until the tracks line comes in?
It could. Oh, you mean just be there forever? What? Oh, wait, I didn't say that out loud.
No, I think that's a good suggestion we could look at, is using that transit corridor that we've preserved in the city and especially in town center, and see, you can see there actually has been an existing trail that did go in that corridor just east of the city hall and the U Road here, where that green line is a paved trail, the dark paved, and so there is a trail, and maybe that's something that we can look at adding to the project list.
And I mean, there's a whole different feel when you get to the trail versus the sidewalk. I mean, Adam voiced that there is runners that go on the sidewalk, and there is at Harriman, around Harriman High School and everything else as well. But it seems like those trails, once you get them in place, there's a lot more use that comes from bikers and runners, and it seems more natural.
I agree, and I think part of that is the separation from the road. You feel a little bit safer, you feel a little bit more like you're recreating a little bit more. And so I do agree with that, and I think that maybe that's something that you can include in your recommendations is to look at adding a project through that transit corridor that we have.
Yeah, and I know we've started on 118, so where the new elementary school is, that private. So that's a paved trail, I've noticed, and it's going to go up. And I think even in the plans it was to have that paved going past Bullfrog, and so to have the whole loop potentially. But we need to make sure that on 130, is 130, 132, I can't remember. Well, but the road that goes up to Butterfield Canyon, that we maintain that same fill, because right now that's getting pretty rough through there. So as we get new developments going, to get a 10-foot trail that goes through there, that's like the asphalt, to get the whole 10-mile loop, because I know they have the triathlon that takes that 10-mile loop and that's part of their their bike portion of it that Harriman does. And so it's just trying to provide some new safety around some of those areas that I think we need to make sure we stay on top of, especially with some of the area potentially being light industrial and other things down the road, if we really want it to continue to be used, so.
Right, yep, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, they're showing that buffered bike lane along 118th there, right? And then the trail is just off, there's the trail that's along the creek, like you were mentioning there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think that'll connect to that new park a little bit too, then that's going in up there.
Yeah.
And 2 parks, so, anyway. Yeah, I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. All right, so we've talked about bike lanes, we've talked about paved trails. These are some intersection improvements for bikes and pedestrians that we identified. This was based primarily on safety analysis and talking with the city. You'll notice a couple on 134th. That's where we noticed most of the bicycle crashes, which makes sense. 134th is extremely busy. So we include some bike box to facilitate turning movements at those intersections. Some pedestrian improvements near some schools, like on Mirabella Drive. Some along Mountain View to help bicyclists get across there. So those are some of the intersection improvements identified in the plan.
Hey, while you're at it, can you look at one spot on 134th just above 56, right where Rosalina dead ends and ties into 134th? There's a trail that goes to the north right across from it at the intersection of 134 and Rosalina. So it's just up from 56 and 134th. A lot of people cut across 134th, just run across it, rather than walk all the way up to the skate park at 6,000. And so because we actually are forcing a trail there, I just think it would be good for you to address, should we get rid of the trail or should we focus that? You following what I'm saying?
Yep, so across 134th.
So it's between 56th and 60th.
So Andy, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people run. When people go to get out on Rosalina onto 134th, there's a lot of people that choose to use that as an intersection to cross between 56 and 66,000. And I think as traffic gets worse on 134th, that's going to get way worse.
Yep.
And if you go back to your trail slide, you can actually see the trail stop right when the road intersects.
Yeah, there may be a potential area as well, and that might be the one up here. Where's the road that goes up to Butterfield off of 130? Where's Butterfield? Oh, Butterfield's right here. So I think you're going to connect it all the way to 118 right there. Yeah, so that one, because it's not even punched through yet, and I forget if that's probably 6,400, isn't it? In between 118 and 130. Is that 132? I always forget. But yeah, something that'll punch through that'll at least allow those from Butterfield to go down that one road and then cut all the way over to any of the trails in that area. And so it looks like that's what's planned, the paved path, because the paved path doesn't go all the way over right now, if that's the one I'm thinking of.
Correct.
Yeah.
But we do show it connecting.
Yeah, which would be great.
Yep.
But yeah, you're not showing the one Adam's talking about. It's not continuing across.
Yeah, to the south, right? Across.
Yeah, it's only on the south side there if you look.
Okay.
Yeah, and especially as we get more with all the commercial that's going in where the KFC is, I've seen a lot more people trying to just cross mid-block there.
Yeah.
Good suggestion. Thank you. Okay. So we've talked about intersections, we've talked about sidewalks. So again, you have the draft plan in your packets. They include a lot more. It outlines kind of some recommended best practices, the safety analysis, a bunch of other items that are in there, so you can look at those. And that's the quick overview. So I know we've talked a little bit, but are there other questions?
I just have a question on page 192 on projections. Just curious, let me go to that. How come the numbers vary so much from one another?
Page 6 of the general plan. Of the, yeah.
Okay.
If you got it pulled up.
Yep.
Just curious, like from WFRC projections and Harriman's projections, kind of why they vary so much, like 2030 to 2050? And like where the
you're talking about
data comes
population projections.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
population projection.
Yeah, that's a great question. So WFRC bases all of their future projections based on kind of a statewide model. And they say there's going to be X number of growth over the entire state. And then from that, they divvy that up throughout the thing. And so all the cities think they have the highest growth, right? And so
We'll let somebody else have it.
Yeah.
I know, and Harriman does, right? And
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I think we're at their 2030 right now.
Yeah. So, but what WFRC has to do, because that's their model, is they have to spread it around pretty evenly across the state. And so that's why you'll notice in practically every city's projections, they're always lower.
Okay.
That's pretty
I just bring that up because I know people, are like, hey, what are we doing about 134, like from a traffic perspective, 123, and obviously they're working on those right now, but it makes me just go back to looking at the projections and where we're already there and behind on some of those improvements.
Yeah, no, good question.
All right. This is on for a public hearing as well. Are there any questions? No, all right. We appreciate all the hard work you guys have done.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Good job.
Yeah, if I had my way, we'd have paths everywhere. So,
yeah.
But that's just me. So this is on for a public hearing, so we will open the public hearing at this time.
Hello, my name is Heather Garcia. I think overall this plan looks great. There was an area of concern for me. If you look on page 206, it shows total walk trips at 600 to 1,000. And the problem with that is they want to add bike lanes to go into the cove. However, they're missing a sidewalk on that corner. So if you're looking at Butterfield Park, I'm referring to the southwest side. On that corner, there's a little horse stable, and it doesn't have any sidewalk. So all of these junior high kids are walking home, and they're walking right into dirt, but it puts them at a really unsafe area because cars are turning right, and they're getting really close to these kids. And then there's a lot of people who will walk the wrong way on that side of the road, because on the other side of the road down the street between 6600 West and 6400 West, on the other side it has incomplete sidewalk too. So I'm concerned that we are not having connection, and I don't know that we should be paying for a bike lane when we don't have a complete sidewalk.
Thank you. Let me close the public hearing before we do that.
Did Wendy have that?
All right, we'll close the public hearing at this time.
Get your steps in.
Do you want to address that last question?
Yeah, I can real quick. So I'm just kind of visualizing it. So we're talking about the west side of 6400 West, west of Butterfield Park is kind of what I understood. And we did actually apply for funds to put a sidewalk in there. I think when it was originally established, so there is curb and gutter there, and then kind of just a dirt path. And it was originally intended as an equestrian trail with connecting into Butterfield Park. And I believe there's still kind of that desire in some of the residents in the area to have that area for equestrian use. But we identified that as an area that we could apply for Safe Walk route grant money. So Safe Walk routes are our routes to school identified by each school. And that route is one that we've identified as needing to be addressed. And so there's kind of two ways to go about that, and both we're working on is 6600 West or Blade Drive dead ends at the creek. And so there's no connection north. If you're on Butterfield Parkway and you go north on 6600 West or Blade Drive, it dead ends. And then on the other side of the creek, it continues. And so the bridge is missing essentially. And so that's an essential kind of connection point for pedestrians and for vehicles. And so we're working to get that funded, and we're also addressing that sidewalk need kind of in that area and seeing if we can fit the sidewalk with the equestrian trail still there. And so that's the background on why there's no sidewalk there, but we are looking to improve it with one of those methods gives us connection to the north.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to ask Michael first on this one. So, I mean, at this point, are we just looking for a recommendation to send to city council, or are we looking for further discussion or to have it come back? Or
The consultant and our transportation staff is suggesting that this is ready for a recommendation to the city council.
Okay.
Now, if for any reason the planning commission would like to see something reconsidered before you make a recommendation, that's certainly your prerogative. But yes, this is ready for your recommendation.
All right, thank you.
Just one comment.
Yeah, Brody, go ahead.
I think one thing I would like to see in here is incomplete sidewalks and where they exist. I don't really see that addressed. I think you guys did an amazing job. I love all the work you put into it. But that's one I just don't know that I see. I see that there's some improvements to roads that don't have sidewalks, but incomplete sidewalks. That to me would be something I would
They
add.
do have the one slide here that does address the sidewalks, and there is a section in there, right, where they're trying to fill those gaps.
Okay.
Right?
Which slide is that?
Well, it was, yeah, if you go back, it was on
Can someone
page,
go to that first overall map?
it was right there.
Yeah.
Oh, right there.
Okay.
That shows where they're trying to, I think that's what Jeremy mentioned, that wasn't a part of the original plan, but then you guys have added.
Right,
hey,
so
here's
the-
some connections we need to get
Yeah,
made,
the sidewalks weren't the main focus of the plan, but we did want to address the key gaps that we felt didn't get kids to schools and other key locations. So we have some of those identified here. Obviously, there's other gaps in the network, and those will be filled in as development occurs,
Right.
as roads are reconstructed, that type of thing.
But these are ones that it's developed, there needs to be a plan to address the gaps. The other gaps will take care of themselves as growth happens.
Can you go back to the overall that you had that had a kind of everything overlaid on it? Because
One
Chris
more.
was talking about earlier, and I think the plan's great. I think you guys have done a great job, but I think some areas we may want to do trails that aren't in a creek, like the one going up around 118th and around the whole
Bacchus
whole,
Highway.
Bacchus Highway.
Yeah.
And I do think it would make sense for us to think about some master plan north-south trails somewhere so that we can start to actually so we can require developers to put that in, other than Chris's good idea to put it in front of a school and it's a good idea to put it in front of a bullfrog spa.
No, I agree, and we do show 3 north-south trails through that area on the northwest side. The bike lanes go all the way around the curve, but just inside of that, there's a north-south trail connection, and then maybe another mile or so to the east, another trail north-south connection.
There were those green dotted lines.
Those are the
your trail.
green dotted lines
Yep,
up there.
Those are your north-south, yeah, okay.
I thought the green were bikes, right?
Yeah.
That
That was one comment that Harriman City provided that is great. So we are going to update these maps a little bit to make them a little easier to read.
Okay.
Because that is one issue here, is the existing bike lanes are green and the proposed trails are dotted green. So I agree, that's a little confusing. We need to fix that.
So, and I did like the idea, and it was probably Jackson that brought it up, of the potential tracks line that is being designated, maybe potentially the concept or idea of putting a trail through that for a north-south connection. Also, one of my, and this is obviously a long-term, very long-term, but I've always envisioned, and if you've ever been up Butterfield, the idea of one day having it be similar to Provo Canyon with a trail going up through Butterfield. And that's probably a little bit outside of even what we're considering at this point, but I think you put something now so the thought's always in their mind.
Yeah, I like it.
And we do show
I see it stop right there. I do see it.
Oh, clear down at the end, you mean? At the
on the far left?
At the opening of
opening of Butterfield, it looks like, yeah. Yeah, so.
So, Chris, I kind of agree with you, and I think you guys are really close, but I think this tool is what we can use to help require things in the future of developers. And so I personally think it would be awesome if we could do this as a work meeting discussion and add it just once you clarify some of those colors, that we can just make sure we're all understanding what the master vision is for bikes, trails, and safe walking routes for schools.
Yeah, and like right now you have around Bacchus, you have a proposed bike lane. My opinion is that's going to be a busy enough road that you have a paved path around it. You don't even consider it to be just on the road. Because to be perfectly honest, I go north now, I won't go south on Mountain View on my bike. Just because it's just, they're too fast. I don't want to be on a freeway, and that's what it feels like. Some people are braver than me, but yeah, I think if you provide more of a safe route, long-term plan around there, and I think, am I correct? We're looking at a bike lane on the road is what you're proposing right now.
On that far side on Bacchus.
And so, I mean, I think that might be a change that needs to be made. But I think around the rest of it, it looks like the connection is there. There is you have a buffered bike lane again on 118, which I think needs to be just a straight paved path as well, bike lane or paved path. I think the connection has to be all the way around. And I know you have some interior with Midas Creek and things like that, but I mean, there's a difference. You're going to have and I'm calling them a 10-speed. I don't even think they call them that anymore, but they're going to cut down Midas Creek if there's the paved path there with a number of individuals that don't feel comfortable on 118 if there's not a paved path there. And you want the faster ones to be around the perimeter, not going on the interior where you're going to have the 10-year-old kids and the moms with strollers and different things like that. And that if we want to make sure we route the certain individuals the way we want them to, we have to provide it.
So just a little background on our thought process on 118th. We did look at Strava data, and that's actually a very high usage bike corridor.
It is very high usage.
Heading up to the canyon there. And so that was one of the reasons we went with buffered bike lanes. We want to provide that.
Yeah, the only problem is there's a little known development that has a couple homes going in called Olympia Hills where people will stop riding that if there's not something a little safer. And that's the fear. So.
Oh, that's a good comment. Okay.
I'd agree. I think it'd be helpful to do a work meeting so we can get deeper.
I think it would be beneficial, especially because there may be some considerations the council has or ideas or concepts that we're unaware of with certain things. I mean, does staff have any opinions on this? With trying to put this in a, I guess, combined meeting?
Are you looking at when I meant work meeting, I meant ours where we could actually talk about it and say,
okay.
Yeah, just ours.
And then recommend it.
But, I mean, we can go council as well, but
yeah, joint meeting.
I think there's a lot of it's just coloring that I'm struggling to see the two distinct lines between bike path and trail and sidewalk.
Yeah, look at the next three maps, but yeah, they break them down. But
yeah, I think delaying for a joint meeting would be unnecessary.
Yeah,
this is certainly
just with
squarely in your role as planning commissioner. So
yeah,
we could certainly.
I'm good with that if we just do add it to a work meeting, and then I think we can isolate a couple of these, then be able to make a better recommendation.
But I do think looking at them overall makes it so you can make sure you're seeing bike, walkway, and trail all at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Just use the same color scheme as you did on the existing for the proposed and dash them at that point. That's all good, Jeremy. No worries.
All right, then, I mean, if that's the case, then we'll probably look for a motion to continue, bring it back for a work meeting and then have it back on the agenda.
I would like to make a motion to continue this item without dates so we can discuss it in a work meeting.
I'll second that.
Second.
Motion by Adam. I'll give it to Brody. He beat you, Andrea. And then we'll call for a vote. Brody?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yes.
Jackson?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yeah.
Andy?
Yes.
Thank you. And then any additional comments by the Planning Commission?
I would just say stuff like this, going over plans like this is what I would love to do in work meeting.
Yeah, this is the first time we saw it. I sat in on the public hearing, or the public meeting, but.
All right. Duly noted. Thank you, Adam. Future meetings, Wednesday, May 12th, 2021, City Council meeting. Thursday, May 20th, 2021, Planning Commission meeting. Wednesday, May 26th, 2021, City Council meeting, and motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adam, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Motion by Adam, Wendy.
That hurt motion down there by there.
He likes to race.
Thanks, guys.
He's done.
That's it. Emotions quick, he wants to be done. We'll look for a motion. Okay, we'll make a motion. What was that, Adam?